Hi and welcome back. I'm Danny Lee, Royal Air Force veteran, and your guide to keeping your aerospace management system cleared for audit. In today's episode, we're looking at aerospace risk and why it's not the register you wrote. There's a habit in aerospace that looks sensible on the surface but causes trouble underneath. And it's the idea that risks live inside a register. The spreadsheet becomes the place where risks are managed, which quietly creates an illusion that as long as the register is filled in, the organisation understands its risks. But risk doesn't sit in a box and colour codes. Risk sits in behaviour. It sits in the way work is actually done, not the way it's described. It sits in the habits people develop under pressure. It sits in the assumptions teams make when nobody else is watching. That's where aerospace systems live or die, not in the register. So let's strip this right back into plain English. A risk register is just a list of things you're worried might happen. Useful, for sure, but it's not the risk itself. Real risk is what the organisation does when it's busy, tired, under pressure, or trying to hit a delivery date. It's the gap between the documented process and the lived process, and in aerospace, that gap is where most problems originate. So let's take an AS9100 manufacturing example. Let's say a machine firm is under pressure to recover a late job. The documented process says that every tool offset change needs approval and verification. The register might even list incorrect tool offset as a risk. But in the real world, an operator makes a small adjustment and keeps things moving. And it works, so the habit sticks. Soon, offsets are changed informally because it's only a tiny tweak. And eventually, those tiny tweaks become part of normal operations. The risk register didn't change. The behaviour did. And that is where real aerospace risks live, in the drift between intention and reality. So let's have a look at an AS9120 storage and distribution example. A distributor receives a pallet with mixed part numbers. Everything is documented correctly. The risk register lists wrong part issued as a risk, but the warehouse is overflowing. Someone puts a pallet temporarily on the closest available rack. Another person comes along, assumes the pallet belongs there, and picks from it. Meanwhile, the paperwork is waiting for somebody to sort it properly later. Nothing catastrophic, nothing dramatic, just a slow normalisation of shortcuts. The register stays clean, but the behaviour doesn't. The pain point is simple. Most organisations treat risk as an admin task. They fill in the register, they review the colours, update the wording, and then move on. But the real risk profile, the one that matters, is shaped by something else entirely. How often people work outside the process, how quickly deviations are spotted, how confidently issues are escalated, how predictable handovers are, how stable the day-to-day behaviour actually is. Without understanding that, the register becomes a formality rather than a control. And so a typical situation goes something like this. During an internal meeting, teams discuss the register, review the ratings, and agree everything is under control. Everybody leaves feeling reassured, pats on the back all round. Then, a month later, a minor event occurs. A wrong part, a paperwork mismatch, an unapproved change. Suddenly, the organisation realises that nothing in the register explained why the issue happened, and nothing in the review predicted it. Because the risk wasn't in the spreadsheet. It was in the behaviour that no one was measuring. So when organisations try to fix this, they usually go down one or two paths. Some overcomplicate the risk register until it becomes unusable. More columns, more scoring systems, more categories. They assume making the register bigger makes the risk smaller. Others underplay the risk entirely, keeping it light, vague and generic, so it doesn't cause discomfort or extra work. They assume that simplicity will keep people engaged. Both approaches completely miss the point. The register is not the risk. The register is the clue. The risk is how people actually work. A more effective way of thinking about risk is grounded in behaviour, not documentation. Pick one process: machining, booking in, kitting, document control, supplier approval, anything. And then ask yourself, where does this process rely on human memory or judgment to stay on track? That's where the real risk actually lives. You could try this. What part of the process would fail first if we were under pressure? That's your real risk rating, no matter what the spreadsheet says. That is the risk that will eventually show up in customer complaints, escapes, audit findings, or long-term system drift. This approach has nothing to do with scoring methods. It's about understanding the natural behaviour of the system. So here's your one takeaway for today. If you want a true picture of your organisation's aerospace risk, don't start with the risk register. Start with the behaviour. Go and spend 30 minutes in one area. The machine shop, the warehouse, the document control desk, and watch how work actually happens. And if you notice a difference between the documented process and the lived process, well, that gap is your real risk profile. The register is just the paperwork. Next time, we're looking at aerospace traceability and why systems usually break long before the data does. Thank you for your time. If your business needs a steady hand getting back on track, you can find us at www.clearedforaudit.com. No obligations, just a conversation. See you next time on Cleared for Audit.